Hi, everybody. This is Meg, LuckyVitamin's Category Manager for Sports Nutrition. It's great to have so many people joining us today for the LuckyVitamin Wellness Webinar, Sports Nutrition for Enhanced Workout Performance, presented by Travis Lesperance, Southwest Regional Educator for Garden of Life. Thank you all very much. Travis holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Nutrition from Arizona State University, and he is a seasoned veteran in the natural foods industry. He has extensive knowledge of the science and application of nutrition and supplementation. Focusing on the philosophy of nutrition, Travis is first and foremost concerned with the incredible amount of cultural and genetic diversity that exists within human populations and the necessity to apply nutrition and diet accordingly to achieve health. Travis has also overseen the designing and utilization of food-based nutritional supplements while developing strategies for individuals and athletes who have been pursuing a variety of different health goals. Travis genuinely enjoys sharing his passion of nutrition and health with others so that they may lead fuller, more active lives. Before I turn things over, just a few quick reminders. This webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you after its conclusion. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please enter them into the question box on your screen. At the end of the webinar, we will try to answer as many as possible. The promotion will be given at the end of the presentation and will be available while supplies last. Thank you all again, and I'm going to turn this over to Travis now.
All right, thank you everybody for joining on. Again, my name is Travis Lesperance. I'm with Garden of Life. I'm really excited for the opportunity to get to talk to you guys today. Really, sports nutrition is near and dear to my heart for a couple different reasons. First and foremost, perhaps like many of you, I got into being interested in nutrition in general because of sports nutrition. I played sports when I was growing up and into high school playing sports, and I wanted to get better. And so sports nutrition was kind of my first foray into understanding how I could change my habits in order to have better performance on the field or in the weight room or however I applied it. And so from there, my interest kind of moved into, well, how do you really approach general health? Not just performance in terms of exercise, but just general health and wellness, and that kind of led me into looking at, yes, sports nutrition is important, but you can't lose the principles of what makes a healthy diet healthy. And so, sure enough, over the years, I gravitated towards Garden of Life, and that's exactly what we try to represent. So we have developed a new sports line, but we haven't lost our principles of who we are as a company. So, just for those who are unfamiliar with Garden of Life, these are really the three things that we try to focus on when we develop a supply chain. And for those that don't know, a supply chain is having to make all of the relationships, having to make all the connections to make sure that all the individual ingredients that go into our formulas come together in a way that upholds the standards that we have as a company, but also maintain things like transparency and accountability in the food chain. And so that's something that we feel at Garden of Life is sorely lacking in the nutrition industry, is having that transparency, having that ability to know exactly where your food came from, and then all the more so it can happen in the supplement side of things. So the three things that we try to focus on at Garden of Life are being whole food, being certified organic, and then being non-GMO verified. Now, that's not always possible, but we are the leaders in the supplement industry when it comes to having organic and non-GMO products, and that's something that we're very proud about that, and we want to maintain that even as we move into developing a sports nutrition line. And so one thing that I always try to make very clear is that when you think about the Western diet, when you think about the standard American diet, what is really the core problem? You could talk about, well, too many people are eating fast food, or people are not exercising enough to burn off the excess calories, or people are eating overly processed foods. But I think ultimately when you look at the nutrition that's found in a poor quality diet, you find that the one thing that is always there is that people are typically consuming too many isolated foods, right? Processing is part of that, but processing can do good things, It's not just a matter of taking a whole food and turning it into an isolated ingredient. If we consume too much of that, we'll end up having gaps in our diet. And so supplements can sometimes help fill those gaps. But at the same time, when you think about what a supplement should be providing, minimally what it should be doing is helping to fill as broad of kind of a buffering capacity of filling those gaps as possible, not just one single nutrient to throw into an isolated diet. So when I think of the Western diet, I think the problem of the Western diet is it's a problem of isolation. And so what we try to do at Garden of Life when we develop our supplements is that we don't try to just add to an isolated diet more isolates. We want to add more food, and that gives you the whole breadth and depth of all the nutrition found in a whole food, especially if it's a nutrient-dense food to begin with. But one of the concerns that always comes through when you're using whole food is that you want to make sure that it's clean, because when you concentrate a food into a supplement, you're concentrating everything. It can be very difficult to separate all the things that you're trying to avoid already in your diet. Let's say you're trying to eat more organic, or you're trying to avoid GMOs, you're trying to avoid pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, things like that. When you concentrate all of that down into a supplement powder, you want to make sure that you're not also concentrating everything else that you're trying to avoid anyways. And so the only way for Garden of Life to guarantee that we're not concentrating things that we want to avoid is by going organic and by going Non-GMO Project Verified. So we strive to have all three in order to develop a supply chain. So when we look at the sports line, what we wanted to accomplish was something a little different than what we've seen historically with sports nutrition products. Now, this is not to say, I want to be very clear, this is not to say that clean sports nutrition products have not ever existed. They certainly have. Some are better than others. But the things that we wanted to avoid, first and foremost, was having banned substances in our products. Now, obviously, we know that when it comes to supplements, sometimes it's the Wild West. Sometimes it can be difficult to know where your supplements are coming from, and that's why we work with third-party agencies like the National Organics Program. That's where you get the USDA Organic Seal, like the Non-GMO Project. They verify to make sure no GMOs are used in either the growing of the materials you're using or the processing. A lot of people forget sometimes that the processing is actually where a lot of GMO ingredients can come into play. But next to that, having the NSF Foundation, they work with GMP standards, making sure that our labels are truthful and accurate in terms of dosing. They also test for things like soy or test for things like gluten to make sure that those who are looking for gluten-free options have that. And then ultimately, when it comes to sports nutrition, informed choice comes in, and they guarantee by testing and auditing all of the raw material suppliers, all the finished goods, making sure that no banned substances are found in the final product. And this can be very, very important, especially for those who are competitive athletes, especially for those who compete in high school athletics or collegiate athletics, making sure that when they buy a supplement off the shelf or when they buy a supplement on the web, that they can be guaranteed that they don't have to ask their coach, they don't have to ask their athletic director, they don't even have to ask the governing body of their sport. They can just see the seal and know that there are no banned substances in there and they're going to be safe. So next to that, synthetic material. So we use food. Like I said, we strive to get whole food. I think there's always a time and a place for an isolated vitamin, but in my opinion, isolated vitamins have isolated uses. And the closer that we can get towards having a full foundation of our diet as a whole coming from whole, real foods, minimally processed foods, I think that the better chance we have to buffer our foundational health to allow us not just to perform when we're in the gym or in doing yoga or whatever we do for exercise, but at the same time helping us to recover. And that's where real food comes in, because it provides that foundation of health so that we can build on top of it the ability to perform in the gym. Next to that, we do have a whey protein in this line. This is the first time we've ever really gone into a whey protein, at least for around 10 years. And that's exciting to us at Garden of Life, because historically we've always done plant proteins. We like to make them raw. We like to make them vegan, soy-free, gluten-free, and we felt that that was always the best way to make the cleanest protein available. And one of the main reasons for that was because it's very difficult to find actually grass-fed whey proteins. Now, they do exist out there, but when we say grass-fed, that doesn't just mean they're being fed grass in their diet. that goes into the farming practices. This is a certification, you guys. It goes into guaranteeing that there's no growth hormones being used in the production of that protein powder. I mean, that's almost a bare minimum in my mind of what you should want out of a dairy product. But at the same time, no antibiotics. These are not cows that are just being fed grains. Their entire diet, kind of cooped up GMO corn. We're trying to move completely away from that into having a whey protein isolate that is as clean as we could possibly get it. Next to that, exaggerated claims. So you guys, if you've ever looked at a product like a pre-workout, just common pre-workouts that exist in our industry, the claims are astounding. The names alone are almost comical when you see them, and they're called Rampage or Dynamite or Monster, Mega, Boost or something like that. We wanted to make sure that the ingredients we're using are clean, that they're safe, but that they're effective. And that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish with this entire line, but especially when it comes to things like our pre-workout. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But ultimately, finishing these formulas out, we don't use artificial colors at Garden of Life. We don't use artificial or even just natural flavors. We use organic certified flavors when we use flavors, and we certainly don't use artificial sweeteners. We use stevia. That is one of the best non-caloric sweeteners that we know of. We can get it organically, so we have transparency in that supply chain, and we're making sure we're using doses that are relevant and that are clean, safe, and effective, of course. So no junk. And then ultimately, how are these materials being grown? We do use whole food ingredients. And are we supporting the farms, organic farms, U.S. farms? Whenever we can do that, we try to accomplish that. So this is the line, you guys, in a basic breakdown. We have a pre-workout, we have a post-workout, and then you move into the recovery phase, ultimately trying to provide your body with that critical nutrient protein to help your body move out of the catabolic state and more into the anabolic to build more proteins, to rebuild the body after that damage that you just did during your exercise. And that's a good thing. We want to stress the body only insofar as we're able to recover. That produces that adaptation response, which ultimately results in what we call fitness. We want that. It's good. It's a good thing to stress the body in a realistic and a physiologically relevant way. But when it comes to preparing your body for that, a pre-workout is something that you typically take within about 30 to 45 minutes of starting that exercise. And then as soon as you're done with exercise, that 3-hour time window really is what it boils down to. You have about 3 hours to make the most of that recovery response and to really amplify that, so that way you can be prepared to go and do more exercise later, or to achieve that higher level of fitness so that the rest of the stresses that you experience in your day physiologically don't have as much of a toll in terms of your perception, in terms of how your body responds. So exercise is a wonderful thing, but having nutrition tailored towards that exercise is exactly what sports nutrition is all about. So here is the line, you guys. We have 2 proteins. Like I said, we have our certified grass-fed whey protein. That certification when we get to it, but we also have a plant-based protein that's tailored around sport. This is amino acids, getting kind of having our phenols and antioxidants to I would say that protein is the chief nutrient that we need by the body, and then we build on that with the fats and the carbohydrates, the vitamins, the minerals. But when you look at what all those other ingredients, all those other nutrients we need in the body, what makes them work, or what do they need in order to work? They need protein. The whole body needs protein. You have your genetic material, your DNA. What does that do? That codes for proteins. So proteins are the building blocks of pretty much all animals, all organisms, and they provide both functional and structural capacities to the body, whether it's enzymes that we make to digest our food, or it's the actual the proteins that go into building our hair, skin, and nails, and of course our muscles in terms of building and repairing tissues. But we know that protein is made up of amino acids, and those amino acids are the building blocks for us to do everything else we need to do in the body. So protein is incredibly important, which raises the question always, how much do you need? Well, for probably half of you, the answer is not as much as you think, and then the other half is maybe a little more. But all of these calculations I have on the screen here really boil down to this. I want to be very clear. You will never, ever, ever need, and I really mean that, you will never, ever need more than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. There is really no physiological condition that exists that demands a higher amount of protein than that. And I remember when I was in school learning clinical nutrition, there was some cases that brought it to that brink. And these were folks that were in the hospital for third-degree burns. 80% of their body was covered in third-degree burns. And even then, through their tube feedings, they didn't need more than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to repair almost their entire skin, right? So when we think about using protein just for maintaining all of the functions that the body demands, and at the same time helping to recover from the stress we put on our body during exercise, those are the two things that we really need protein for on a daily basis. We need that base level, which is around 50 to 65 grams a day, depending on your body weight. That's just the base, right, to allow you, if you were to just sit in a chair all day, right, you didn't move at all, you would still need about that amount of protein to just do the normal functionings of your body. And then next to that, you have your activity factor, right, and that could possibly double it. In some cases, it can go a little higher than that, but just to be very, very clear, getting somewhere around 3/4 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that is in the upper ratio of what you'll ever need. So for the vast majority of individuals, if you just took your body weight and you cut it in half, right, somewhere between half of your body weight in grams of protein and your whole body weight in grams of protein, if you're able to hit that window and you exercise on a fairly regular basis, that will be sufficient for you. So the reason why we make proteins is that we make clean ingredients that can be very practical, especially if you're on the go. So, if you make smoothies a lot, that's a perfect way to incorporate that amount of protein you need in your diet. But by no means are we at Garden of Life wanting people to just double their body weight in grams of protein, and they need to get that. Absolutely no. By all means, we want to stay away from too much protein. But when we talk about the protein that we do consume, we want to make sure that it's clean. And that means, where is it coming from? How is it being processed? What is the growing standard of actually sourcing these materials? Because the last thing we want to do, if we're trying to eat clean in our diet, eat organic, eat whole foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, washing our fruit and vegetables, right, using minimal processing techniques to cook our vegetables to maintain that nutrition, all these wonderful foods, the last thing we want to do is throw in a supplement that is not coming from a clean source. So we have developed certified grass-fed whey protein. You can go to trulygrassfed.com and look at this certification. But what this certification goes into is making sure that these cows are being fed as much fresh grass from the pasture as possible. And so we like to define how good a grass-fed protein is by how many days they're actually eating fresh grass. For us, we are sourcing this whey protein from Ireland, and that means that this protein is being fed 300 days a year minimum on fresh grass and pasture. And then you have baleage and silage to fill out the winter months when obviously grass is not even able to be consumed because of the weather. But with that being said, that is our standard. So you might see grass-fed a lot in the supplement industry, but at the end of the day, the question is, does that grass-fed mean 10 days on grass, 100 days on grass, 150 days on grass? There's good standards that already exist out there that are somewhere between 150, 180. We have 300. That's where we kind of stake our flag in the ground. That's what we're proud of. So that's exactly where this whey protein is coming from. You're getting 24 grams per scoop, which is absolutely sufficient for the vast majority of people. I want to say 2 standard deviations, almost the entire population, in order to get the best response coming out of exercise. If you are getting 24, 30 grams of protein, that's on the higher end of what you would ever need in order to really maximize that stimulation of new muscle proteins and help that recovery process go along. But the good thing about using a whey protein isolate is that it's very quickly digested. It gets into the bloodstream very quickly, and you get really high amounts of branched-chain amino acids. And those 3 amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, those amino acids are what's mainly responsible for stimulating that new muscle protein growth and to help blunt kind of the catabolic response of breaking down muscle tissue because of exercise. And so those amino acids are incredibly important, and we don't need to just throw isolated synthetic amino acids into the mix to boost up those levels. If you use a good quality whey, you're going to get good amounts of branched chains just to begin with. And then next to that, good amounts of glutamine, obviously for repair. But when it comes to kind of rounding everything out, we wanted to also include 2 billion of a clinically studied strain of Bifidobacterium lactis. So if you guys know Garden of Life, you know that we are first and foremost concerned with the health of the digestive system. And go figure, whole foods are good for your digestive system. It's almost like it's almost like it's been that way for a long time, and of course it has. But we know that the health of the microbiome, which is that collection, that 3 to 5 pounds of bacteria that are in your gut right now, that is playing a critical role in your digestion, in your immune system, just in really every system of the body. They are now finding connections where the bacteria are communicating with your nervous system, with your hormone systems. It's almost like its own organ unto itself. The only difference is it shapes itself around your diet. So making sure that you're getting a good amount of nutrition that's feeding and maintaining your microbiome, that's going to be the fibers, that's going to be things like polyphenols, and then also exposing yourself to a good diversity of probiotic species like the Bifidobacterium lactis. That's going to be incredibly important towards rounding out a healthy spread of all of these different species that are doing a lot of different things for you. So we could have spent this whole time talking about the microbiome until you guys just, said, forget it, I've learned enough. But what it comes down to is that you need to maintain a healthy microbiome, and that comes through the diet first and foremost. And so when we maintain that biome, it helps our immune system, places like our lungs, helping the skin, helping the sinuses. The central command for your bacteria is happening in your colon right now. And so the health of that is going to determine the health of microbiomes in many other areas of the body. But the point is that you need probiotics. We need all the help we can get. So we included that clinically studied strain in with the whey to help with immune support during stress and exercise. And that's essentially the formula. So we have our vanilla, we have our chocolate, and it is almost entirely a whey protein isolate. We did include some milk protein concentrate, so this is not a lactose-free formula. It kind of almost killed us just a little bit to go with a whey protein isolate, even though we know it's it still is a whole protein. You get all of the globular fractions that are wonderful that are coming from dairy, but we wanted some whole milk protein to go along with it to kind of round out that whole food idea that we stick to so closely at Garden of Life. But that whey protein isolate is that wonderful sourcing that we're using 300 days on grass on average. So just as a summary, whey protein is absolutely fueling muscle recovery, 24 grams, and it's coming not just in good dosages, but at the same time it's coming from cows that are treated like cows. Go figure, right? And so even down to the farms, the carbon emissions, everything is looked at in this certification to make sure everything is on the up and up. But next to that, you're getting 6 grams of branched amino acids, 4 grams of glutamine and glutamic acid. That's the precursors for those recovery amino acids, and then ultimately 2 billion of our Bifidobacterium lactis. So that moves us into our plant-based protein. This is going to be similar in terms of having that Bifidobacterium lactis, but the real goal here is to get the branched chains up as high as possible. So we know that plant proteins in today's day and age, they absolutely are on par when it comes to the quality of the amino acid profiles and things like that, the digestibility, making sure it's absorbable, making sure you're getting rid of anti-nutrients like lectins and things like that. That's in today's day and age, options are available to not have to go with a dairy or an animal protein in order to get sports performance. But when we formulated this line, we're using organic U.S. grown peas. That is the base of the protein for this blend. We do have a couple other protein sources to round out the amino acids, but with that being said, what we're really trying to accomplish here is getting the branched chains up as high as possible. So in each serving, you have 5.5 grams of branched chains. You actually get a little more glutamine out of that natural blend that's there. We're not adding any glutamine to it. It's just what's naturally occurring. And we're also including around 500 milligrams of our muscle recovery blend. So in the top right, you see that although whey protein contains all of those immunoglobulins and those immune-supporting proteins that are naturally part of that dairy. When it comes to a plant protein, we wanted to include the muscle recovery blend to get a good support from things like polyphenols and antioxidants, and we're using rich sources like tart cherry, apples, goji, blueberries, things like that to help really blunt that stress response. And we'll talk about that a little more when we get to our post-workout recovery, because that's one of the main things you wanted to accomplish when it comes to moving into the recovery phase. But we need all the help we can get there too. Just a quick note, when you look at the standard American diet, we come very, very short in getting a lot of polyphenols. These are those main antioxidants that are found in a traditional diet. And when you look at a traditional diet, these people are getting around 5,000 milligrams actually on a daily basis of actual polyphenols. And then you look at the standard American diet, we only get about 1,000. So we have a lot of work to do to build ourselves up to getting the right type of nutrition that humans have been consuming forever. And so we're trying to give you that support to go along with the protein that you need. So one thing I do want to mention at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we are an official partner of the United States Track and Field Team. We are the supplier for their supplements. And so one of the main reasons that they wanted to partner with us is because all of our sports line is Informed Choice certified, which means it's safe, which means it's clean, and you're getting good performance out of it, good effectiveness. So we have a chocolate. We also have a vanilla in the plant-based protein line. And just a quick summary on that, you're getting 30 grams of protein. This is coming from a grain-free blend. You have peas, garbanzo beans, lentils, navy beans, cranberry seed. So you get a good, robust source, a blend of different sources of amino acids. And then you're also getting 5.5 grams of branch chains, as well as 5 grams of glutamine and precursors to go along in that natural blend, as well as a muscle recovery blend and 2 billion of that clinically studied strain. So that is our proteins. These are the types of products that you're trying to consume, within the time period of about 1 to 3 hours after exercise. That's when you really want to get that dose of protein to stimulate that muscle recovery response. And what's amazing about getting a great post-workout meal is that it's going to change your metabolism for the better over the next 24 to 48 hours. So let's say you work out 3 to 4 times a week. Now you're compounding those beneficial metabolic effects and changes. That's fitness, that's growing, right? You're compounding that every time you get that post-workout meal after a good bout of exercise. So that is a great way, obviously, to maintain health. But in order to get better performance the next time around, you want that good post-workout meal. But when it comes to self, this is I want to be very clear with you guys. When it comes to things like Informed Choice certification, this is the most probably crucial category of supplements that we need to make sure are clean, are safe, and are effective. I mean, I've been around the block, you guys. I've seen and I've tried a whole lot of different pre-workouts, and I can tell you right now, not all pre-workouts are for everybody, right? When you look at the average dose of certain compounds that are found in pre-workouts, the average dose of caffeine, which of course is a wonderful ingredient when you're using it in context, the average dose of caffeine you typically find in a pre-workout is somewhere between 300 and 400 milligrams nowadays. How much is that? That's a lot of caffeine. And then you consider, when is someone taking this? Are they taking it, in the afternoon? Are they taking it on a regular basis? That's a massive dose of caffeine, and it's almost ironic because if you're trying to become more fit, and you have to rely on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of milligrams of stimulants just to get you through your exercise, that almost should be telling you, perhaps I'm achieving the opposite end because I'm taxing my adrenals, I'm not able to recover properly, I'm not able to stimulate a proper adaptation response, and so I'm having to rely on big, massive doses of stimulants to get me through my day. I always like to think stimulants are kind of like taking a loan out on your energy. You have to pay it back, and you have to pay it back with interest if you take too big of a loan out at once. And so we are using caffeine, but we are not just using caffeine anhydrous. That's an isolated form of caffeine. They get it from when they decaffeinate coffee beans. The decaffeinated coffee beans go into kind of the coffee industry, and then the isolated caffeine goes into making supplements for the most part. And so we are using caffeine that's coming from whole coffee berries. That is the entire coffee berry, not just the bean. It's certainly not roasted. You're getting the flesh of the fruit of the berry that's coming along with it, and that gives you a whole host of polyphenols to go along with a normal dose of caffeine. That's 85 milligrams. And that's a really interesting level. Why would we go with 85 milligrams? It's because at that dose, we don't have to must be 18 years or older to consume this product. Now, I took supplements when I was back in high school playing sports. When I worked in a natural food store for about 6-7 years, I saw all the time high school kids coming in. They play sports, they have games, they're very active, they want something for exercise, but the vast majority of products that we had, I couldn't recommend them to, and I shouldn't have been recommending them to them because they were for those who were 18 years or older. And a lot of that has to do with the dosage of things like caffeine. So we know that when you consume 85 milligrams or less, that is a safe dose for teenagers and up. And we know that's a safe dose because there's a mountain of evidence to show that. But the reason why I want you to kind of connect this in your mind is that that's a normal dose of caffeine that you get if you got caffeine from a normal caffeine source, somewhere like a cup of coffee or like a cup of black tea. Right now, we are enhancing that by using the whole coffee berry, so you get all those antioxidants to go along with it. But gearing your nervous system up and preparing your body for being awake and alert, that's exactly what caffeine can do when you use a normal dose. And so that is kind of the core ingredient we are using in our energy and focus here. Next to that, we have our nitric oxide blend. We know that nitric oxide is very helpful for expanding our blood vessels, delivering more oxygen, more nutrition over the long haul, not just for the exercise recovery phase as well. Having high amounts of nitric oxide in the blood is very, very helpful, mainly for kind of that endurance performance because you're getting more oxygen utilization. But there's a couple ways you can go about getting nitric oxide boosters in this industry. You can use big giant doses of isolated or synthetic amino acids. That's certainly a route that you can go, but you typically find when you consume those types of ingredients, you'll get this big spike in nitric oxide, and then it just tanks. And it's because there's nothing there to give you a nice sustainable curve of production, and at the same time, there's nothing there to preserve that nitric oxide in the blood from being scavenged, by the cardiovascular system. And so what we are doing is we are using nitrates from plants. That's coming from beets, that's coming from kale, that's coming from spinach, and that gives you a nice conversion ratio because it doesn't all just convert to nitric oxide all at once. It takes time to build that curve, so you get a nice sustainable curve of nitric oxide production, and at the same time, when you're getting your nitrate boosters from actual vegetables, you are also getting a whole host of antioxidants to help preserve that nitric oxide in the blood, and that's exactly kind of the relationship that you want to make sure that nitric oxide is doing work for a longer amount of time. Also, we're using our whole food vitamin B12, as well as for one flavor, have some carbohydrates in there for those who are looking for that, a little bit of endurance support. And so here's the formula, you guys. We have our Blackberry. This does have 11 grams of sugar, 2 grams of fiber. So this is not for everybody, but for those who don't mind getting a little bit of extra carbohydrates, or for those who are more endurance focused, absolutely this is a safe amount for them to actually put that carbohydrate to work. That's kind of my position on carbohydrates. If you're going to eat them, put them to work, right? It's very simple. But with that being said, we do also have 85 milligrams of that whole coffee berry extract. That extract itself is standardized 70%, but each scoop gives you 85 milligrams total of that coffee. And then we have 1,000 milligrams of our nitric oxide blend. And so we have our Blackberry. We also have our Blackberry cherry. Now this one is our sugar-free formula. So it does use stevia. We do use a small amount of organic erythritol. That's a very, very well-tolerated sugar alcohol. It's coming from an organic source. And so it helps give that body of sweetness, but at the same time, you're not getting those calories to come through in there. And so still 2 grams of fiber, and you're getting all the other ingredients. And one thing I always like to point out when it comes to the sugar-free is that this actually has 10 more servings. Right? Organic cane sugar is not a cheap ingredient, and when you're dealing with organic ingredients, these are not the cheapest ingredients that we sourced from our raw material suppliers. But with that being said, when we don't use sugar like we have in our Blackberry, this has 30 servings, but when we have our sugar-free, this has 40 servings. So maybe all the more reason to go with the sugar-free option. That's the one that I like the most, but some people like the Blackberry. So just a 3-point summary here. You have a fast burst of energy that's coming from things like the nitric oxide blend, the B12, the simple carbs, and you're gearing up the cardio really perform at a very efficient level, and that's coming through the whole coffee berry extract. So it's clean, it's safe, it's effective. We don't have to call it some weird, goofy name that's almost intimidating to look at it. You're like, what is that called? That product's called what? It's called destruction, I don't know if that's entirely safe for me to consume. No, we call it energy and focus. Nice and simple. It's going to do the job. It's certainly going to blow something like a cup of coffee out of the water. I know for a lot of those who are more naturally minded, they might just do a cup of green tea or a cup of coffee before they exercise because they don't want to move into some of the synthetic ingredients. But this is an option for them to kind of bridge the gap into more performance while also maintaining clean, safe, effective ingredients. So once you're done with that exercise portion, you want to move into that recovery process as soon as possible. So within the first hour or so, you really want to take some ingredients and some nutrients that are going to help you to blunt that stress response and move you out of that catabolic state. So of course, having your post-workout meal, that's always got to be there. But in between your exercise and that post-workout meal, blunting that stress response and really minimizing the oxidative stress that you just put on yourself is really going to pay dividends later on when you're trying to recover and get more fit in the long run. So we are going about our post-workout a little differently than what you see in a lot of post-workouts. Typically, a post-workout will just be big, giant doses of things like branched-chain amino acids. Well, we're going to be getting that from our post-workout meal anyway. So adding more branched chains is not necessarily going to give us any increased recovery response. What we want is the actual nutrients that are going to help that protein get the job done. And so first and foremost, we are starting with chelated magnesium. Right, that is a form of magnesium that is much more absorbable than just getting regular old salt form of magnesium like a carbonate or an oxide or a hydroxide or a malate or a citrate. All of these forms of magnesium, if you take too much of that magnesium, it will give you a laxative effect, and it's for good reason. Your body will simply stop responding to the absorption pathway that those magnesiums take. Even trace magnesium is going to do the same thing. It's going to be saturated, and then the excess magnesium is going to pull water into the colon, and you're not going to absorb it, and you get that laxative effect. And so when we use magnesium, we are chelating it to whole pea protein. So this is a whole food magnesium source, and that chelated form of mineral, anytime you chelate a mineral, it's going to help shuttle that mineral into the body at a higher rate. And so chelated minerals are incredibly important, especially if you want to maximize absorption. And so we are using that chelated form to move into the body to help relax the muscles after exercise. That's what magnesium does for the nervous system. It competes with calcium to prevent your muscles from contracting. And you guys know what that feeling is. When you get done with your exercise, you're all done, but your muscles still feel real full, real tight. They have a strong tone to them. A lot of that is because there's a ton of calcium that's been flooded into the muscles. And in order to really maximize that recovery response, you want to get that calcium out, move the magnesium in. So that's a really great way to start your recovery phase. And then on top of that, getting a high punch of a scatter shot of all these different antioxidant sources will really help to minimize that oxidative stress. So that way you can get to work in terms of the actual recovery phase and then make the most of your metabolic response in the long run. So we have our 1,000 milligrams of antioxidant blend. We also have vitamin C in there. We have lastly, we have a blend of B vitamins. And so here's the formula, you guys. We have all of our B vitamins, and for those that know Garden of Life, we don't do isolated vitamins. We don't do synthetic vitamins. When we work with vitamins, we're getting them from food. And so you actually look on the very bottom there, you have 100 milligrams of our B vitamin blend. Those four sources right there, you have Sesbania, that's an Ayurvedic herb, you have holy basil, you have guava, you have lemon. That's where all these B vitamins are coming from. We are actually using standardized botanical extracts to get our vitamin sources. And so this product is all about really doing three things. It's giving you a B vitamin complex to help your metabolism make the most of the post-workout meal you're going to consume. It's got 100 milligrams of that chelated magnesium to help your muscles relax. And then you get 1,000 milligrams of our antioxidant blends to really blunt that stress response. So it's a perfect bridge coming from exercise into your post-workout meal, which doesn't have to be a shake. It can be, but at the same time, it could be a chicken breast with some vegetables, with some sweet potatoes, something like that. But this is the perfect bridge to get you to make the most of that post-workout meal. So you're getting muscles, you're giving them energy to recover. We do put some carbohydrates in there, a little bit of protein, just giving you as much support as possible, but, not taking over the actual post-workout meal. And then you're getting that big dose, getting some vitamin C, pretty much everything you need to get that process started. For those who are kind of on the go a lot, they're also looking for clean ingredients. They tend to go more towards consuming bars. And that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish. We wanted to make a bar that was high protein, also high fiber, but tasting great and coming from an organic vegan source. So we have our bars. We have a chocolate mint. There's a 20 grams of protein. You're getting 7 to 10 grams of fiber in each one of these bars. Very filling. We're using either almond butter or peanut butter, depending on the flavor, to give you some actual good healthy calories there. So this is not a low-calorie bar. We're not trying to accomplish that. We want something that's going to keep you full. Not a nothing bar. We want something that's actually going to go to work and help you get good nutrition to sustain your day. So we also have the peanut butter chocolate, the sea salt caramel. These are just very simple, organic, high fiber, high protein. And then we also have our raw fit. So very quickly, we have reformulated our raw fits. For those who aren't familiar, this is a product that's all about being high protein, but at the same time giving you all the bells and whistles to help with weight management goals. The new formula has a higher amount of fiber, and we've also made our organic fit bars, which are essentially a half scoop of everything that goes into raw fit. You're still getting the green coffee bean, you're still getting the ashwagandha, the cinnamon, all those wonderful ingredients, but at the same time, we've almost doubled the fiber, so 13 to 14 grams of fiber. This is more for those who are focusing on less calories, but at the same time, good nutrition. That's exactly what these bars are offering. So we have 3 flavors here: peanut butter chocolate, to like the sea salt caramel most, but that's the sports line as a whole. It's designed to be clean. It's designed to be safe. It's designed to be effective. That's exactly what you want to get the most out of your sports performance. You want to add to a foundation of good, healthy foods in your diet. I would say that any time that you don't have to go isolates and you still get the same performance, I think that's a great option. So that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish with Garden of Life, the sport line, and that's exactly what we mean when we say the cleanest performance line ever. It's organic, non-GMO, NS form choice, no banned substances, and truly grass-fed whey, certified whey protein. So I want to thank you all for coming on today. And I think we'll move into questions if you guys have them, but thank you again.
Thank you, Travis. That was full of great information. We do have a couple questions that we want to get into first. All right, let's see. The first question, where is the grass-fed protein sourced from?
Yeah, that's going to be coming from Ireland, entirely from Ireland. So there's a cooperative of 4,800 farms that we're working with, and that's what the certification applies to. So these 4,800 farms all have to be held to that same standard of minimally 300 days a year on fresh grass. And so it's all from Ireland, and that's really the only place on earth that can guarantee that standard of practice, and that's exactly what we're holding them to.
And I think that you touched on this, but is Garden of Life, is that certified grass-fed?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to trulygrassfed.com, and that is our third-party supplier or certifier, and they are the ones who are doing that certification. It's not Garden of Life, it's the third party, and then we go according to what they have standardized and certified. That's what we're using exactly.
And then the next question, what is more important for muscle building during a workout? Protein before or after, or both?
Yeah, so this just kind of gets into kind of a broader debate of in general, when should you be consuming your nutrition and when should you stop moving into exercise? So I think the general rule of thumb is to don't really eat a meal within about 90 minutes of exercise. There is research to show that that does tend to blunt some of the blood supply that would be going towards the actual exercise portion. Instead, it's going to the digestive system. But in general, when you think about what is that metabolic window that I have to make the most of the actual exercise that I do, if you consume that protein within about 3 hours after exercise, the sooner the better, but within about 3 hours, that's when you're gonna maximally stimulate that new muscle protein synthesis. So this is for those who are exercising for about an hour or less. If you're an endurance athlete and you're doing ultra marathons and all that kind of crazy stuff, then yeah, you're going to just have to kind of bite the bullet and be consuming your nutrition throughout the day. But for those who are engaging in normal exercise patterns, you typically have about that 3 hour time window after exercise, And if you do that, you will maximize the amount of, I guess, gains that you would get from that exercise itself. It doesn't have to be to the T, but you generally have those 3 hours, and you're not going to get any more benefits apart from that kind of time period.
Great, thank you. And then the next listener would like a little bit more clarity on what BCAAs are.
Yeah, so there are 3 amino acids that kind of stand out from the rest when it comes to how they work in the body. These are the branch chain amino acids. These are known as leucine, isoleucine, and valine. You will typically see branch chain amino acids in all protein sources in nature. Some sources have more than others. You'll also see them sold as just an isolated amino acid on the shelf. But these amino acids, and particularly leucine, although isoleucine and valine do play a role, these are the amino acids that are used directly as an energy source in the muscles. And just their mere presence there, these are structural proteins as well. They help to stimulate the production of new muscle proteins when you consume them. So, that's when you think about the need for protein after exercise, a lot of times the biggest players of the protein you consume in terms of your recovery process is going to be those branch chain amino acids. So absolutely critical for recovery and absolutely critical, just in general in how they stimulate the body's production of new proteins. So, there's been a lot of research recently in the last 10, 15 years about when you consume those, let's say leucine, it actually gets broken down into a couple different really unique metabolites, and then those really drive the genetic response to make those changes in the body. And so, just making sure that you're getting normal but sufficient doses of those branch chains, that can be, that can make all the difference in terms of your recovery phase.
Great, thanks. And then the next question is, how do I choose between a whey protein and a plant protein?
Yeah, I would say that it doesn't have to be that way. I would almost recommend that you rotate your protein sources, and I don't really fall into the camp that that says that you absolutely have to rotate your protein sources. But I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to make sure that you're getting a blend of different protein sources throughout your day, and not to rely on any one protein, just over and against others. This has been kind of the rise in people who like things like kind of the collagen and things like that. It's just getting complementary sources. So I think that a good principal protein in your diet can be either the plant or the whey. But for those who have dairy concerns, obviously they can't go that route. And then those who have concerns, or maybe they don't want to eat peas, then they're not going to go that route either. So I would say for those who have no concerns over the particular sources, they just want clean, good protein, you can go either way. It's more personal preference than anything, but honestly, if I had in a perfect world, I'd say rotate your proteins and consume different sources. Make sure you're getting the doses good, but I personally like the whey protein more than the plant protein, but I meet just as many people who say they like the plant protein as well.
Great, thank you. And then our last question, since you have a plant-based protein bar, will you be coming out with a whey protein bar as well?
Well, we always have a ton of things happening in our wheelhouse at the, and when it comes to research and development. There's 5 educators at Garden of Life. I'm one of them, and we work closely with our formulation team. And it's amazing how many ideas don't make it to the shelf. So, yeah, it's never outside of our reach of, wanting to maybe try that out. But I think you guys will be very surprised when you try these bars. We've done bars in the past, and we've always kind of been like, well, they're clean, but just the taste isn't, what the top tasting bar is out there. It's not the same. With these bars, I think we've come about as close as we ever could to making one that's clean, one that's moist and chewy and tastes great. I'd say give these a try. You might be surprised.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap this up now. Thank you all again for attending, and thank you to Travis for all the information. If you have not already done so, please register for our upcoming webinars. For more information, please visit LuckyVitamin.com and search keyword webinar. Please see the screen for our current promo offer. And reminder, this offer is only good while supplies last.